Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bill Lipinski.
And I'm Ray Hanania, and this is Two Guys on Politics, Season 2, Episode 16, November 30, 2023. We got two topics, Bill, right? One is, isn't there strong leadership in this country for president? And why is there, and why not? And we're stuck with Trump and Biden, and neither of them seemed strong. And the other topic is this Kentucky Republican from the 4th District, Congressman Thomas Massie. He reintroduced actually legislation to eliminate federal taxation on Social Security, but it's only backed by the far right wing members of Congress. Why aren't Democrats supporting it? But let's start with the presidential race. We're stuck, it looks like, between Trump and Biden, and that doesn't look very good, does it? I'm worried.
No, it certainly does not. There's no question about that. We totally and completely agree on that, Raymond.
Yeah, it's Trump. He just can't get past his pettiness to focus on America. He's focused on himself, and focused on 91 indictments that he's fighting, doing his best to fight. But I just can't imagine that in this circumstance that you could beat all 91. So he could be our first indicted presidential candidate, convicted presidential candidate for president. And then we got President Biden, who seems to be always reading a script when he's talking to the American people. It's not like, I don't get the sense that he's a tough leader. It's wishy-washy. And in today's times, that's the last thing we need.
No, we definitely need a strong leader. There's no question about that. One of the things that I think has been terrible as far as the Biden administration, and there's a number of things that they have done that I disagree with, but I think one of the worst things is that they have allowed, by their actions, to see a uniting of China, Russia, and Iran.
Yeah.
I mean, those are three formidable opponents to be lined up against us and Western Europe. And I think that could have been avoided if we had had stronger leadership from the Biden administration.
But why aren't listen, you and I have been talking about this for a number of weeks and podcasts, and there's some other people talking about it too. But why don't the American people seem to not care? Or they're only on one side or the other. They attack Trump, implying they support Biden, or they attack Biden, implying they support Trump. But it doesn't seem like anybody's looking at this saying, oh, wow, stop. We don't have two good candidates in a two-party system. We're really screwed. Nobody's saying that. How come we don't hear that from the American public? What do you think? What's going on?
I think one of the problems is the fact that so many people in this country, in spite of the inflation, have it pretty good at the present time. And because they have pretty good at the present time, they don't pay much attention to politics. They don't pay much attention to government. That's never been the American way. The American way has always been go out, work hard, make money, buy a house, buy a car, have children, educate the children. That's how people have looked at things. And still today, there are a lot of people that way. But once upon a time in this country, people actually took an interest in their local government, their state government, their federal government. They knew what was going on. They felt it was important to them. But I think now so many people have it so easy that they just figured nothing serious is going to happen. We shouldn't worry about it. We shouldn't be involved in it. And with two candidates like Biden and Trump, we ought to be concerned about it, because there's a lot of things that these two individuals do that I think are detrimental to this country. And yet I don't see any other people rising up. At one time, I had hopes for the no labels people in Joe Manchin from West Virginia running for their candidate as president. And maybe Scott being the vice presidential candidate. But they do not seem to be making much headway. And if you are going to run some people for president, you got to get them out there very, very early. How many people, if you went outside the studio here and you asked the first 10 people if they knew about Joe Manchin, how many of them you think would know about him? Maybe
Even if very
maybe
few, and even if they did, it'd probably be a negative from either side. You know,
right.
the Biden people would criticize him, the Trump people would criticize. Nobody's looking at him as, hey, he could be a leader in our messed up system that we have.
And we have Bobby Kennedy's son running. He seems to be generating about 22% of the Democratic primary vote. And I frankly, don't know how stable he is. I mean, there are a number of things that he's been supportive of that I agree with, but he's been, I think, terrible in regards to COVID, regard to, well, I'm having a tough time there.
Regard to
all vaccinations. He seems to be very apprehensive about that stuff.
I don't know if COVID to me is that big of an issue. I mean, there were people that were against the vaccines, people that were for the vaccines. I think that's more of a problem of, this political media that we have, that they grab a hold of one agenda and they push it. There's no more education of the public. There's no more education, reporting on issues. All the news is really opinion disguised under the label news when it's really not news. That could be one of the reasons. See, I don't agree with you that people are so well off or good or happy that they don't care. I think it's more, maybe some of them are, but our economy is terrible. Inflation is killing us. I mean, you and I were talking about the grocery store. The cost of food has doubled and tripled. Now, the gasoline, everybody looks at gasoline and says, oh, that's the measure. If gasoline is low, we must be doing good. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, everything else is going up and gasoline is being manipulated to make it look like it's good. And that's what worries me. So I think that people are in such bad shape. I think that, and they're struggling, and they're watching as money is flowing in every direction except at them. It's going to migrants. It's going to foreign countries. It's going to wars overseas. When's the money going to start coming to us? Our money. When is it going to come back to us? So I agree with you that we're in a really bad predicament. I'm not exactly sure what the cause is, but I think part of it has to do with the media has failed to do its job to help the public. I mean, listen, the average American, they got a mortgage payment. They got 2 cars to take care of. They got all rising utilities. They got to work. It's now a 2-income family. The husband and the wife work in most cases. They're worried about crime. They're worried about, are we going to have any money if we retire? I don't think that they're worried about, they're not being pushed to worry about who's going to lead our country that's strong to get us out of this mess. I think they're overwhelmed and consumed. And drowning in problems, and they can't focus, and there isn't anybody out there to help them.
Well, I think that many people just don't believe that government can be of much help to them anymore. They've lost faith in government. They've seen too many arguments between the Democrats and the Republicans, and nothing gets done. I think that is a very big concern. But to go back, there are many people in this country who are still well off, who have good jobs, get paid good money.
Yeah, the 1%, they're millionaires.
It's more than 1%, Ray. I'm sorry.
2%. Listen, I'm in a decent income bracket, and I'm telling you, I am looking at the deterioration of income at a rapid pace. And, and I'm working hard, and I consider myself well off. I can pay all my bills. I can save money. I could put some money towards my own pension because I'm self-employed. But I'm looking at people that, at the store, I stop and I talk to people. They think I'm just a crazy old person at the grocery store. I talk to them and say, how are things going? And they're going, oh, did you look at the price of soap? Did you look at the price of the eggs and milk? How are we going to pay for that? And they have a really bad sense, but they don't know where to express that frustration because nobody's helping them express it. No one in Congress, nobody in the media, no leaders. I'm worried. I'm just worried, and it's frustrating.
Well, I'm very worried about this country and where we're going. But I also blame the citizens more than you do. I think that citizens have to take a more,
Yes.
a more important role and know what's going on in this country, and know what positions the Democrats have and the Republicans have, and who supports legislation that's beneficial to the citizens of this country. But unfortunately, people just aren't doing that at the present time, Ray, because I think that too many people are too well off. Those who are not, I shouldn't say too many people too well off. I mean, that doesn't sound right. We all want to be well off. Everybody in this country should be well off. It's
Maybe
not the case. It cannot be the case.
maybe we should change our political system, because you're saying that, Republicans and Democrats, but maybe the part of the problem is that, our system is not, doesn't accommodate today's world. Maybe we should do what the Israelis do in some other countries, where we do it by parties and coalitions, the British, where you get a couple parties together instead of just having two parties. We should break up the parties, and we should have coalitions come together and force them to be innovative and, use their brains to attract voters. So you get 5 different coalitions and let them come together. And then through democracy and consensus, they then come up with a leadership for the country. But this two-party system, if it's just the Democrats and the Republicans that I have to choose from, I'm not happy with either one. I want a different choice, but our two-party system doesn't really allow for a third party, to run. So I feel like I'm wasting my vote.
Well, do you think we should go to the parliamentary style of government?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm just saying that the two-party system, I think, is broken. And I think it wasn't always broken, but this is the first time where we are so far apart. It used to be a two-party system where there was overlap, the right and the left, there was a center. We don't have that center anymore. We're so far apart, the majority, that we're either far right or extreme right, or we're far left or extreme left. And nobody in the middle seems to be able to drag them back to the middle. So your choice is either Biden and Trump. There's no discussion. And I don't like either of them. I don't like Trump. I think by the way, Trump is destroying the Republican Party. And when you look at the candidates, it's really a joke. When you see all the candidates out there, and they're all in single digits. They can't beat a guy who has 91 indictments against him. And then you look at the Democratic Party, and we're stuck with Mr. No personality. Not just no personality, but no leadership. He just reads from a script. I don't feel inspired by him, and I'm worried. And then I feel bad because they say, oh, don't pick on him because he's a senior. I'm a senior. You're a senior, Bill. If at some point we have to say that, we're not in a position to lead, because of our issues, with health issues. But it's just, I'm very scared about the future for this country.
I'm very scared about the future for this country also. But I think it's up to the citizens to do something about it. One of the reasons that we were as successful as we were for so many, many years is the fact that we had a two-party system. But it was a two-party system that wasn't really that far apart from one another originally. And they could get together, they could compromise, they could pass legislation that was good for the country. That helped us move, that helped us get stronger, helped us get wealthier in this country. But now, unfortunately, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, they are so far apart that they can't get together. And who does it penalize? It penalizes you and me and the other 300 million Americans that I really would like to have some leadership from the federal government, but they don't see it.
Yeah, I agree. There used to be a time when good ideas drew support from the Republicans and the Democrats. So you would have a good idea that Republicans favored, but Democrats would support. Or you'd have an idea that Democrats favored and Republicans would support. Maybe this lets us transition into this bill. An example, I think, would be this Social Security ban on taxation that was introduced by Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie. Now, he's a far-right Republican. And this legislation says that Social Security is being double taxed. It's taxed before it's taken out of your income. And then when you get it, because inflation has killed the level of income is still so low, most people, Social Security recipients, are very close to that point where you have to be taxed. So if you have another job, the incomes together force, you to be taxed. 85% of your Social Security is going to be taxed, and that takes money away from people. So he introduced the bill 4 times since over the last 6 years, I think. In this most recent time in May, he's only got, I think, 15 Republicans who are from the extreme right wing of the Republican Party. Gatez, Boebert. What's going on with that? Why aren't Democrats saying that's a good idea? We should all come together for good ideas rather than for party, bragging rights. What's happening with that, do you think? What's holding it back?
Well, what's holding it back is the fact that in 1984, when Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan came together to save Social Security, one of the things in the legislation that was passed was, in order to extend Social Security out longer, they decided it was necessary to tax the recipients of benefits, from Social Security, which I understand. Now, if you're not going to do that, if you're going to allow those people to receive Social Security tax-free, where are you going to get the money from? You're going to have to tax the rest of the population, right?
Well,
So your taxes are going to go up. Mine won't go up. I'll benefit from it. I'm a senior citizen. I'm collecting my Social Security. Fine. I'd like to have Social Security without any taxes taken out of it, but that means you're going to pay more money.
But let's go back to 1983 or 85, I think, when he did this. Do you remember the year? I can't remember it, but it was around 1980s under Reagan.
I think it was 84.
84. At that time, Social Security wages were probably the highest was $1,500, maybe even $600 for most people. So you could go out and work and earn $4,000 before you had to pay a tax, because seniors today, their Social Security is up to $3,000, $4,000. I think it's $4,500. And that's still not enough in today's world to pay your bills. So you have to go out and work, but you're already over the limit of being under the line of where you don't have to be taxed. I think the failure is they haven't raised that line of what can be taxed to keep in conjunction with inflation. Do you know what I mean? It's like we're being taxed at I don't know what the bottom level is, but if you make $16,000 a year, you're going to be taxed. It should be if you make $60,000 a year, and under, you should not be taxed for any reason. And if you're over 60,000, you should be taxed, because I don't know how somebody lives on 60,000 a year. It sounds like a lot of money, but inflation has changed the dollar. 60,000 in 1984 was a lot of money. You were rich. 60,000 today means you can barely make a home payment. You can barely put food on your table. You can barely put your kids through school. You could barely do the basics. You could have a car. That number has never been raised. We need to raise that number, not just don't tax Social Security. If the alternative is don't tax Social Security, then raise that minimum number that people can earn before they're taxed. And it should accommodate Social Security and a second income.
Well, why do you think that only Republicans have signed on to this bill, and they are the far right Republicans? Why don't they have any other Republicans, or why don't they have any Democrats on this legislation? It's been around since Ron Paul introduced it back when he was in the House of Representatives.
I think they see it as a good issue that they think will resonate with voters. And I think Democrats are against it because they don't want to lose that revenue. They are concerned about the poor. I don't think Democrats are concerned about seniors. I think Republicans are more concerned about seniors than Democrats. Democrats talk about seniors, but they don't do anything for us. You know, we got a 3% increase in Social Security. Okay, whoopee-doo, 3%, that's great. I'm going to have to pay 22% in taxes because I just started getting Social Security. But you know what? I've been paying money into that Social Security fund since I was 14 years old. That is 56 years of working and paying money into Social Security. And now they're saying I'm not paying enough. Give me my money back that I paid into it then, because I probably have more money now that way than I would under this really failed system that they don't want to support. Increase the Social Security deduction on everybody. You young people, everybody should pay Social Security. Why isn't inflation impacting the amount of Social Security tax that you pay, so that when they get old and they're in our shoes, they will have money, to retire on? The young people, I didn't think about Social Security. Now I do. And today, young people don't think about it, but they should.
Young people would like to do away with Social Security. They think that they'll never get it.
Right.
They just as soon us get rid of it. Well, you say the Democrats don't care. It was Democrats that introduced Social Security in the first place.
Well, back in the 30s, right? Wasn't that Roosevelt?
Yes,
Wasn't that
Franklin.
Roosevelt? But wasn't Roosevelt a different kind of Democrat back then, honestly? Wasn't he a different, more conservative Democrat than the liberals that we have today?
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, he was a liberal of his day, but creating something like Social Security was a very liberal program at that particular time. I simply say, if you want to transfer more wealth to the people receiving Social Security, fine. Stop them from paying any taxes. But then the other people are going to have to pay additional taxes in order to support those people on Social Security.
Of course.
Very few people today, have the money that they paid into Social Security still paying them. The vast majority are long past that time that they're living on their money. They're living on the government's money now. I mean, I'm the first one to say, I made a deal with Uncle Sam. I'm going to pay into Social Security. I expect my money when I get to this age. And I'm going to get it. And they'll never cut out Social Security for people who are already on it. But I think there is a possibility with the way things are going, without having private pension funds, without having, other funds that people can invest in. I think we may wind up doing away with Social Security.
Well, here's the problem with that. Let's say we do get rid of Social Security. Then we go to a welfare system where the public ends up paying even more money for the poor. Absolutely. The migrants. We're paying money for migrants that are homeless, and yet we don't take care of our homeless people. 580,000 people out there who are homeless, and almost 20% of them are veterans. We don't take care of them. So we're going to end up paying more. I mean, I think there should be if we had good leadership that would explain to people, this is the way we prevent you from having to pay more when you're older and forcing you to work longer. Now, if you want to work longer, that's great. I love working. I'll work until I fall over. But there are a lot of people that don't understand that the money that they're making now, when they put money away from themselves, they benefit. It's like an insurance policy. If we had that attitude, why Social Security? Why have insurance? Why not just take a chance? For 90% of the people, they don't have car accidents. Their houses don't burn down or explode or, get flooded. But for that 10%, that does happen. And what if it does happen? That's the whole point of insurance. And that's how insurance succeeds. And we don't have a lobby like the insurance lobby to ensure that we pay money into these insurance companies the way we do.
Well, there's Medicare, that's a federal government program.
Yes, for health, right?
Yeah, that's not an insurance program.
But I'll be on the street with no home and no car and no job and can't eat, but I certainly will have some health benefits, and I'll still have to pay a portion of my money to cover Medicare costs, right?
Did you ever say you were a conservative? Right?
I am a conservative. I'm a conservative Democrat. And to me, this whole thing about Reagan Democrat, I didn't agree with everything Reagan did, but I do believe that he represented where America was in the middle. And when you're in the middle, you don't have to agree 100%. You can agree 70% and we can get things done. Today, it's either 100% to the left or 100% to the right. And if you're not on either side, then they bully you and they say that, they call you names. Each side attacks each other personally. I think that's what's happened to our country. We're not in the middle. And I think you and I both touched on the important thing. Politics 20 years ago, 30 years ago was closer together. Republicans and Democrats, they came together for the good of the country. And it wasn't about party, it was about the issue. And when an issue was good, there was no jealousy about who would support it.
No, I agree with that. Very different. When I first went to Congress, 1983, the Democrats got along with the Republicans got along with the Democrats. And then along came Newt Gingrich, the greatest bomb thrower of them all. He did
That's
win.
True.
He won the House for the Republicans, all right, but he destroyed the camaraderie that existed. He destroyed the ability for the parties to come together, to work together for the good of the American people. Now, once the Democrats took the House back, they used the same tactics as Newt Gingrich. So they became just as, bad as him. They are just as much responsible for the situation that we are in at the present time. Right now, the most important thing to each party is to win the next election, not to serve the American people, but to win the next election. That's it. Keep the power we have. Don't let that other party get the power. That's a terrible tragedy for this country.
I agree with you, Bill. All right. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski.
And this is Two Guys on Politics. And we will talk to you again next week. Thanks, everybody, for listening.